So, Greg's with me today.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. It's going to be a mishmash of just a rush of consciousness.
It's going to be a mosh pit of consciousness.
Just a mosh pit of...
The Indy 500 Special Edition.
That's correct. That's what it will be. So, spoke to Greg earlier today, and then we start talking about a number of different things, and then I realized, like, oh, you know what, that could have been a great, part of a podcast or whatever, and then, but anyway, I mean, we can always rehash it because it's always interesting, what we talk about, what people of our awareness level talk about on, on this spinning ball going 1,000 miles an hour. But it's so strange because I feel like I'm just sitting still, and the only movement I feel is this fan blowing on me because I need air blowing on me. But so many developments. Our conversations usually, start with what the hell's going on. I think I sent you a text earlier in the week or something about some kind of escalation. Trump sending troops to the Middle East.
He's been sending them to all places. He's sending them to Somalia, and they're not talking about it on the news at all. Oh. Why would they be sending them to Somalia?
And what is that, like northeast Africa?
It's East Africa. Yeah,
haven't they already raped and pillaged that? Because I kind of want to think that was one of Wesley Clark's, 7
Maybe
countries.
You hear about the pirates, right? The Somalian pirates. They made the Tom Hanks movie out of it.
Yeah.
When he was a ship captain, the Somalian pirates.
Obama's cousin, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Tommy Hanks.
Tommy Hanky. Tommy Wanky.
If you use the first letter of his name and then his last name, it's thanks. T. Hanks. That somebody sent that to me one time. I sent them, like, hey, thanks. I appreciate what you did, or I did something for them, and they were like, it was like T. Hanks, and it was a picture of Tom Hanks like waving.
Well, if you listen to any Ed Sheeran, you probably would. That was probably in the baked into the cake. As far as we need somebody with that's the thanks,
right?
That we can make the thanks guy.
Is he still around? For God's sake,
Sheeran, yeah.
Get out. I was Will Sasso for a short period of time when he apparently listened to one of my podcasts, and we were just kind of having a chuckle, even though we gave him a lot of airtime, and we, were very courteous to him. At least I know I was. I forget exactly whether. I had him on the program, and then one night, we were doing, I think it was the Oracle Unleashed and everything, and the next thing you know, I'm Will Sasso, which was just kind of weird. But I've actually been called that before, like some Jewish fella, that I grew up with, said that I look like Will Sasso, and I was like, I guess overweight. Will Sasso was overweight for a long period of time, and then he lost some weight, and then. But anyway, I guess you could say, or Curly from the Three Stooges, or something. But
Uncle Fester.
Yeah, but it was so weird. Before I shaved my head, before I. People used to walk up to me. They used to walk up behind me and say, no, it wasn't Joe Biden. It wasn't Joe, Sneaky Joe. But he used to walk up, or people used to walk up behind me and say, hey, hey, and I turn around. They're like, oh, I thought you were a buddy of mine. oh, I thought you were this person, or I thought you were that person. This is where when I still had, my, barely, where my, what do you call it? My follicles were unchallenged, and then they became like super challenged, and I was just like, I just got to get rid of it. So another bald person said, "What are you holding on to it for?" And I was just like, "You're right. What the fuck are you doing?"
Will Sasso, he hasn't done anything since
Mad TV.
Mad TV, and that's been off the air for years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Been going for about 10 years.
It's a good show. I liked it. I thought it was funny.
It had some good stuff.
Yeah.
I won't say it was great.
Well, he used to do a really good, what was it, Randy Newman? If you look, I don't know if you ever saw that, like Will Sasso as Randy Newman. It was very, very funny.
He did he did a really great, because it was on back in the 90s.
Steven Seagal?
No, he actually looked like James Gandolfini from The Sopranos.
Oh, right, yeah, I think
so. He used to do the bits where he was Tony Soprano,
right?
And he pulled that off really well, because he actually does look a lot. He did look a lot like, at that time. He looked a lot like James Gandolfini.
Yeah.
And
what else?
James Gandolfini was. I met him back when he was nobody, when he was in high school,
really?
Actually.
Nice.
Because he grew up in a couple towns away from me in New Jersey. He was 2 towns away.
Right.
And my ex-wife and my girlfriend, before we got married, her brother had a party somewhere. We met, and he was there. And I was hanging out with him and talked with him, and he was talking about he was getting into acting and everything, and then he was trying out. And then like a year later, he got into that great movie with
Nick Cage. No.
No.
He did a movie with Nick Cage.
True Romance.
Oh, right, with
remember that?
Walken and Slater.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, right. You're right. He was in that. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah, he got killed by the girl.
Right.
Whatever her name was, I forgot her name.
She was the sister of the girl that was in the Madonna movie.
Yes. Yeah, she was quite a sexy thing. She did not age well. The last thing I saw her on was
the television show where she was a medium. Now she's extra large. No, that was awful.
No, she was on that show, Atlantic City. Was it Atlantic City? What was it called? It was kind of the mob movie with Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, it was Boardwalk Empire.
Boardwalk Empire, that's it. She was on that. She played when Buscemi goes to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
She was, I guess, in control of the Florida mob distribution or whatever.
Right.
Played the character, and she was a love interest for Steve Buscemi in the final season or the last 2 seasons of the show. But she didn't age up. She didn't, like a lot of women, she didn't hold up very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can only stay young and beautiful you only stay young and beautiful for a short period of time, and then it's.
Well, particularly when it comes to women, right?
There's some very attractive older women out there.
Very few.
We have.
Yeah, there are.
Right.
There. We were talking about one with about a great movie that I saw last week, John Wick 3.
Right.
Which is, did you get a chance to see it this afternoon?
I checked out probably about an hour of it, but it was exactly like just the incredible violence, man. Just the choreography. The choreography had to take just
so you got to the part with the dogs, right?
Right, I think so. Yeah, the dogs.
Oh my God, was that the most incredible thing in a movie you've ever seen? That was unbelievable.
She had 2 dogs, and then Braun from the Black Wolf. Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it.
Yeah, go see it. Definitely, it is.
Braun was in it.
One of the best movies of the year.
Braun, what's his name? Jerome Flynn, who played Braun on Game of Thrones, was in it, and then he shot one of the dogs. And then anyway, it was I'm gonna finish it out. It's good. I kind of question that because I think if you've seen 1 and 2, then you'll want to see 3. But I think the thing about that is that there's this underground thing, and I always think, is this like Illuminati? Is this like a branch of the Illuminati?
It was. It exposed that in a world, and I believe this is true. I believe that there is a world that they do not accept Federal Reserve notes and paper money.
And it's just gold coins, and
they only accept real money in exchange for services. And it's run as a secret society.
Right.
And it makes sense in our world that they would do something like that.
Right.
And I think this expounds upon it and kind of makes it superhero-like in a lot of ways, because it is kind of, it's unrealistic that one guy could, kill that many people and he'd never get shot, that kind of thing. But the beginning, the knife scene, the dog fight in this movie are just off the charts. You've never seen anything like it before in any movie at any time. Probably never will again.
Yep.
There's only one scene in the movie. I won't give it away. You'll know it when you see it at the end. There's no CGI in this.
Right.
So these dogs were trained to do that, and wow, unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, what I saw of it was pretty cool. I mean, it had a good, the flow was, because I guess it picks up right where 2 left off, right?
Yep, right where 2 leaves off, and
like 20 minutes before he, and it's so cool how they and if you've seen 1 and 2, then you know that once you become non-communicado, and they announce it like John Wick non-communicado 20 minutes. This one woman, she's like a receptionist. She's like, one of those gum chewing receptionists. Is like John Wick incommunicado. 5,
and they're all using
4,
old
3
flip phones to communicate, and rotary dial telephones.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, none of the new stuff. So it's not traced. Nothing's internet. Everything is done like on the QT.
Yeah.
That stuff, because it can't be monitored, right? The system is all into the tech, which is easy to monitor.
I think so. And even if they were, I mean, just like all the major cities in Nightmerica are just corrupt to the core. So if anybody on any level of importance, wherever they get to, whatever level they get to, they know that it's pretty much, they know where to not stick their nose.
Exactly.
They'll get a call.
There's a world. There is a separate world for the people, and I don't want to call them the elites, but for the landowners.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and the landowners who have their private security forces,
mm-hmm.
which this John Wick represents a member of that security force who was able to step aside and get out. Why you would want to get out of the world of the private and get into the world of the public,
right,
is beyond me. That's the part where, but
would he actually be public at that point? I mean, when in the first one, when he's in his house, and I don't know whether his wife gets killed after or before.
Was she killed in a car accident? She wasn't killed by anybody.
Yeah, but it wasn't during the movie. It wasn't during the movie, right?
No, it was. He's just having dreams about her,
right?
But she wasn't a character in the movie other than flashbacks. And it was done very well. You didn't know, like, is this John Wick in the public or is he in the private? Those are questions that I would ask. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how does he...
If he's in the private, then he can sort of have that appearance of being in the public with the house and all that. But they show that he's in the private because he still has his connections.
Yeah.
And he's able to call the cleaner to clean up the mess. And you would never be able to do that in the public. In the private, you could do that.
Because it's, again, like you said, it's a world that's within the, within the world that where it runs like a well-oiled machine and everybody has to follow the rules. And that's one of the things that they say. You need to follow the rules. That's why the rules are here. Just like when you walk inside the Continental, inside of this hotel, you can't do any business in there, which means no killing. Mm-hmm. All you do is talk. All you do is I guess it's
you lay down your arms,
a safe house, if you will.
It's a safe house for everybody,
and a kennel apparently,
and a kennel,
and a nice kennel because because they like him. You know what I mean? That's the thing. They like him, and that's a good thing. You want to be like, well, he's a legend. He's a legend in this world. And when you hear this public and private, if you heard any of Clint's conversations with me in the past, Clint Richardson, brother Clint, he talks very much about the public citizens and then the private citizens, the people that are outside of the law, that there's rules within that. I'm sure there's those rules that are in there that you don't speak about. Deception Club. You don't speak about many of these different.
You don't talk about Fight Club,
right? You just and the Constitution doesn't apply to them. It doesn't really apply to us either. And,
well, no, the Constitution actually applies to them because it's a negative document. It does not apply to us because we are not a party to the agreement. Now, the John Wick character, this is what I've found fascinating about it, because I think it's a glimpse. Because they always like to show you, here's a glimpse of a world, all right? Mm-hmm. Wrapping around a story called fantasy, but in reality, it's probably more based on truth than you know.
Yep.
That in the world that these people, these landowners have their own private armies, their own private security and defense forces, that, they have to protect their interests from other gangs because this is a pirate cove. Everything is about piracy. Mm-hmm. And it's that way, and it's always been that way. We've just never been shown that because it's a club that we're not in. Mm-hmm. So John Wick is a glimpse into that world. Like, what if you were in this, you were a commoner, right? He plays this Russian, he's not part of the Russian aristocracy. He's just a kick-ass soldier who's recruited by the aristocracy and brought into this world and has to take a pledge that they call the table.
Right, the table, right.
The table. So
under the table, the table, and then under the table.
Right.
And then words that they use.
He knows who he's working for, and all these players, all these characters are all aware of this underworld, and they're permitted to conduct their business, pull their scams, like fleece the commoners, the unsuspecting, but don't draw attention to the table, to the aristocracy, the real power, the landowners, the people who actually run the show underneath. And that's why I don't want to give away the plot. You have to see the whole movie.
Yeah.
You'll see there's parts of it. We could talk about it later, but
right.
It's very much.
What
I think that's why it was. It got a lot of fascination from people, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh, that's a world that I'll bet you." I think it's probably closer to reality.
Sure.
Than we know.
Yeah.
That there is this underworld.
So it's like, I guess one of my questions is, how does he get out of it? Like they mentioned, you got out of it, but then after they killed your dog, then that was it. Then you were back in.
Well,
so I don't know how
he got out of it. The wife died, which he was staying out of because he was in mourning. Mm-hmm. And then that Russian mobster's son,
right,
who was one other guy from Game of Thrones, the guy who gets his dick cut off in the Game of Thrones.
Oh. No, wait a minute. Was Alfie Allen in that?
Yep, he was the Russian son who killed.
Okay.
Who killed
I didn't even know. I wasn't even watching Game of Thrones back then. So, don't worry, folks. This isn't going to turn into an episode of Entertainment Tonight where we're star fucking people and interested in who's got a fucking gold plated toilet bowl.
But it's a glimpse into the world, and it relates to what we're
talking about
experiencing in our lives today, and what we're seeing, this clown world that's being thrown over us. Mm-hmm. And what I was telling you, what's great about John Wick 3 is we are under a full assault. Hollywood is being told, probably by the people who control them, that they want a shift to this, gynocentric feminist genre films where it's Super Power Ranger girls. Right. And this has destroyed all of the popular franchise films. It's destroyed Star Trek, Star Wars. You're
talking about the new CBS
Game of Thrones.
One, right?
Yeah, this new thing with all this Super Power Ranger girl nonsense, which is none of this is based on reality. It's 110-pound women kicking the crap out of 220-pound guys. It's a joke. It's laughable. This is not based upon reality, and it's an assault on our culture, our sexuality, our humanity. It's a full assault on every one of us, including women. Women are being abused with this.
Right.
Because giving women the idea that they can be this, and in reality they cannot, is going to lead to a lot of them getting hurt. And since all these films have sort of taken on this genre, the producers of John Wick said that that John Wick 3 was going to have the Super Power Ranger meme, that it was going to be focused on, powerful women. Well, I could tell you the movie was not.
Right.
All right? It was absolutely not. It was a ploy to sort of maybe quell the critics, but they went to make a movie that was going to make money. Right? Mm-hmm. They said, you know what? While all these idiots are worried about social engineering and not worrying about making a profit, let's just give a 2-hour nonstop action, macho, old-fashioned. We haven't seen an action movie like this probably in 15 years. All right? This is classic 80s Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Steven Seagal, you name it, all of the action hero movies, this is all of them into one. All right? It is by far, definitely go see the movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Mm-hmm. And don't bring a chick.
Yeah, it's not one of those, unless they like guns and killing.
It is not. It is definitely a movie you go see with your buddies, and you'll laugh about it, and you'll be a kid again.
Yeah, and that dog. He had that pit bull, man. That dog was adorable, man. His new dog was just, and that was the kicker thing.
You didn't see it all, but you will know something towards the end of the film that is very apropos. We'll have to talk about that later. I don't want to give it away as a spoiler, but it has to do with the pit bull, and it relates to the dogs. The dog fight scenes.
Right.
But there's so many little tidbits in this film that really would, when you juxtapose to like Game of Thrones. Now that Game of Thrones is over. Mm-hmm. Game of Thrones was a disaster. It was a disaster for HBO, a disaster for Bernhardt and Weiss, It has
right.
caused. I mean, you have like nearly 2 million people signing a petition saying throw out the season 8 entirely and redo this. This has caused which is a good thing. It has caused a major discussion now with have they gone too far with pushing this feminine meme and making this, really destroying these franchises.
Well, spoiler alert, and this kind of goes. I know that there was obviously, everybody wanted. Spoiler alert. Everybody wanted Jon Snow to be able to fight with the Night King and take him down. I wonder where I'm getting that. Do you hear that sound?
That's what I.
Is that you or me?
No, I thought it was on your end. That's weird.
It's weird. When I was talking into the mic. Yeah, you never know what you're dealing with when you connect to one of these globalist platforms.
They don't like us talking about Game of Thrones. You're supposed to like Game of Thrones.
Don't say nothing. But anyway, so Daenerys Stormborn in the end gets killed by Jon Snow. And he, because she just, within an episode or two, she just loses it. She loses it. She kills, children. She's sitting there. Mm-hmm. The bells ring.
Innocent people, right? She's supposed to be this monitor.
Well, the thing is that Tyrion Lannister, Hand of the Queen, he says, ring the bells, and then he keeps saying to her, if you hear the bells ring, that means that they surrender, it's over, right? So the bells ring, she lands, the bell rings, and then apparently it was for her to just start killing, like when a fighter hears a bell ring, then they go out punching. So you figure she's going to go to the Red Keep, and then she doesn't go to the Red Keep. She goes and just starts wasting people. And I was kind of shocked by it. But to give you a little bit of background, the conversations that I had with Greg in the past where he was saying, I don't know whether you told me in the beginning, like, oh, I'm watching Game of Thrones, and then we had another conversation where he was just like, oh, I can't even watch it anymore. Whereas I started watching it last year this time after season 1 through 7, and so I just totally flew through all of them, and I didn't have to. The thing is that I didn't have to wait, whereas everybody else who faithfully watched it had to wait every week to get to the next episode, whereas I was able to boom, boom, boom all the way through it. And I saw some of the things change. I saw some of the, the differences that happened.
You saw it go from a show of honor, which was the first 3 seasons, particularly based upon the masculine, right? Mm-hmm. To as soon as they did the scene where the 3 women kidnapped the captain of the ship and bury him up to his head in the sand and start chucking spears at his head. Mm-hmm. That's when I was like, I'm done. It jumped the shark. Forget it. This is just, it's not following the book. It's just going off into, it's all gay. It's, powerful women, all gay. Forget it.
Right.
It's, you went a completely different direction the first season. Now they've done a few things over the years. People have told me, oh no, they've these scenes were good with the dragons and all that. And I'm like, I know, but the underlying story is that I have zero tolerance now for anything. I mean, I have a good friend of mine. He was telling me about a great show called The Expanse. It started out, it's a sci-fi show, and now it was started out on the Sci-Fi Channel, right? And now it's been picked up on for Amazon as an original show.
Okay, yeah, I did see it on there.
And The Expanse season 1 was nearly perfect. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Was nearly perfect. But then the first thing out of the box in season 2, they have a battle with there's this female soldier, and she's doing an arm wrestle with a robot, and beats the robot in an arm wrestling competition. Not only beats the robot, but throws the robot's arm down to the point where sparks and everything, and she breaks the robot's arm. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that's it. Bloop, it went off, and I haven't watched it since. I'm like, well, give it a chance. There's some really great episodes. You know what? Once they do this, once they put this stuff, I'm so tired of it. That's why I won't watch Star Wars, Star Trek, Star Wars, all these things that I grew up with. They're completely ruining, and they're ruining entertainment because it's an assault upon our culture entirely.
Well, I mean, yeah, I hear you. I mean, everything seems to be just a crushing type of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
talk about that for just a minute, because I gotta take care of one thing real fast. So give me 5 minutes, okay? I'm sorry.
Yep, no worries.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
So yeah, I mean, there's very few things that I will watch. I did binge the Game of Thrones. It was tough for me to really kind of get, to get into the crux of it. I had to watch like a couple of episodes, and sooner or later, like after watching that, maybe around fourth or fifth, I just started to become addicted to it, to become addicted to the great acting, the storyline, things like that. And then, yeah, things definitely changed. There was a
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
No worries. And then, there's just some weird things that happened, but I just kind of let it slip. I kind of let like certain things slip by because I just didn't. It just didn't even occur to me. Like apparently there was I don't know if you, Greg, you heard about the coffee cup, like the Starbucks cup that was left on the table, like after the big Night King. Arya kills the Night King.
There was an actual Starbucks coffee cup.
There was an actual Starbucks coffee cup on there. I didn't even notice it. I mean, people had to be like really, really looking to be able to see this.
When it comes to anything on a set, there are no accidents. So it was placed there.
Yeah, and there was water bottles. There were bottles of water in the very end episode that were behind, like sitting next to the chair. Like they had about 10 or 12 chairs in the dragon pit. Mm-hmm. And then Tyrion Tyrion comes out. He's been captive for letting Jaime go because Jaime had to run back to Cersei after going to fight, up in Winterfell. And one thing leads to another, and then and I didn't even see it. Like I'm looking at them, I'm listening to things, and then people later on, they're like, oh, and they're like, look, next to this person's leg, you can see the water bottle behind it. You can see that, and I was just like, you
could be a little picky about things.
Yeah,
it's a TV show.
Well, here's the thing. There's very few things very few shows that I will watch. And I wasn't even watching it when you started talking about it. And then I started watching a couple shows and saw what was beautiful was the places that they were filming. I love the winter scenes and everything looked so real. It was like, wow. I mean, you can really appreciate a lot of these different things. And then just, I'm sitting there and the last season, more so in the 8th season, that took 2 years for 6 episodes, that HBO offered them 10. So they could have stretched things out a bit. They could have done any number of things, but D&D said, no, we'll do it in 6. We'll do it in 6. They another thing is that they brought this Jon Snow, who for the longest time he thought that he was this insignificant bastard, and the only thing that he was going to try to do with his life was go to the Night's Watch, go to the Wall, and protect the realms of men. And then he finds out that he is not a bastard, that he's the son of Ned Stark's sister, Lyanna Stark, and that she fell in love with Rhaegar Targaryen, which is, I guess, the uncle of Daenerys Targaryen. I mean, it's a good show if you can get past some of these things. Like Greg obviously has the zero tolerance. We have a zero tolerance here, and that is it. No more.
Nope.
And I get it. I understand. No, because there's a lot of shit that I just won't even contemplate. There's a lot of shit like this 13 Reasons or something. This Netflix. It's come back up. It's just like, why are they showing this? Why is this show on? It's glorifying suicide. It's all these other things. And it's like, people don't understand. People don't understand the world that we live in, that we have been. And I've said this today to you in our conversation. We've talked about it for what is it? I was like 2012. I've known you now, 7 going on 8 years. Unbelievable. I can't, because I was on Oracle and I guess like the summer or something, like the summer of 2012. And the world has been a complete, utter lie. Everything about it, everything of importance was strategically manipulated by very, very powerful families from the onset to control money, to control when technology. RCA was military. All the first radio stations were all there. Matter of fact, I think I was listening to this one podcast. This guy Crow 777, and he and his podcast buddy were talking about the 40s. They were talking about 1900, and they were going through all of these different things. And it turned out, like, I think one of the first radio broadcasts was on an election day, where they could convey the results of a particular presidential election through the radio. So everything strategic, and people cannot even fathom that every aspect of nearly everything that's ever happened to their ability to control it has been manipulated and created. It's a fiction, like Clint says all the time. They create a fiction. They say, this is the United States. This is this. This is that. They give things a name, and then once they create it, it's like Clint says all the time, it's their creation. They do what they want to do with it. So he'll also say things like, you can't change this system. You have to leave it. And if you leave it, that means you have to leave your Social Security number or your, what do they call it? Your internment camp number. Your open air.
Well, I disagree in this respect. There's the defeatist attitude that we could all take, but what we're seeing, and we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
is we're seeing a rise of consciousness take place. Not the consciousness of awareness that the system is fraudulent, that a rising consciousness of the logos.
Right. The logos,
right?
Yes.
The logos. That
Greek word.
right, which is God. It's not even in a religious or institutional religious sense. Though my suggestion is I hope we do an interview. I did send a message to E. Michael Jones, so we got to get him on an interview.
Sure.
And so I know he'll agree, so we should do that. And how all of this is kind of really, because we are right now literally at the crossroads in our societal evolution as it stands right now. They're on I have never seen a double down the way that we've even experienced in this year.
Right.
An all-out attack on the culture, on the norm, and to bring about for what? What are they trying to bring about? Right. It's clown world. It really is. It's clown world, but it's not working for them because what's happening is that in their world of illusion, because they have no logos, these people, right? You cannot have logos, and because if you have logos, then you have fairness amongst your fellow man.
Reason you don't want to steal from people. You generally want to help people. It's like everything. If you are in Logos, if the world is in Logos, then it means everything is even across. It's like a universal socialism, but not in the way that.
Equal distribution of labor is a lot different than socialism. It's we have to get away from capitalism. Right. Not in the sense that, and I'm not talking about free market entrepreneurialism. I'm talking about capitalism, which is legalized usury and sodomy. Yep. All right. Until we can get away and institute logos and then institute real, genuine, fair markets. I'm going to talk about free markets, fair markets that are based upon preserving the logos within a culture. Every country around the world will emulate, and the pirates will take a back seat, and no swords be drawn. All right, and they are doing their damnedest to throw us off of that, and that's what this culture war that we're experiencing that has gone into high gear. Right. I mean, the highest gear ever. Yep. I mean, there's nothing. Everything is anything that's good that's put out there for us that is actually that's good. Even look at things like Westworld. All right, how they. As soon as something gets popular, they have to infiltrate it and destroy it from within. They did that to Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and I mean, it only makes sense. It only makes sense because once they know that something is popular, they can tell by the numbers that a show is popular, and then they can say, okay, well, we've got the ear of a segment of society. Now let's rape and pillage this thing and throw our programming, our propaganda, our malicious code. Let's throw some malicious code into it.
And I think it's no accident that all this is being done during the so-called Trump administration, who is a traitor, blatant, obvious traitor to the country and the people of this country, because his allegiance is his full-fledged number one allegiance is not even to the United States of America, it's to Israel.
Yep. Everything that he's done. I mean, the moving of the what was it, the embassy?
Not even that. It's everything. Anything that Netanyahu calls for, he does. I mean, Netanyahu says jump, he says how high. He's totally being led by the nose.
Wasn't there a New York Times? Somebody said that there was a cartoon that I forget
being led by Netanyahu. Netanyahu was a dachshund dog.
Right.
Trump is blind, wearing a yarmulke, being led by Netanyahu.
And the New York Times is owned by a Jewish family, is it not?
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much right.
Which is exposing I think the battle between the Likudniks, all right, which the Likudniks are basically your Eastern European Ashkenazis that came from Russia and Eastern Europe, and they were the immigrants that were pulled into Israel, particularly in the 70s.
Right.
And Yahoos of that ilk. These are the Bolsheviks. We're not dealing with common Jewish people just trying to find peace.
Well, he's not even that popular over there because at one point I worked with a.
No, we're dealing with Bolshevism here.
Yeah.
All right, this is the problem. People think like, oh, Israel, all these Christians believe that Israel is this group. We're not talking about just common Jewish people. We're talking about a group of people that killed 100 million people that are bloodthirsty savages.
I mean, this is Rothschild. This is Rothschild. I mean, a lot of the architecture and everything in Israel was funded by Rothschild.
The Rothschilds and the New York money interests, Kuman Loeb and the rest of them, the Bushes and the rest of them, financed the Russian Revolution.
True.
All right, they financed Trotsky. All right, they're in league with them. These are a pirate class of aristocrats that are not part of the monarchy class. They have overtaken the entire world and enslaved them through the issuance of debt, through debt and sodomy, and through usury and sodomy. Okay,
and to be and in all fairness, it's happening to American Jews as well. As you know what I mean, they're
being
debt
victimized
slaves.
by it as
They're
well.
being victimized, and
because
the
they're being
people
denied logos.
and the people in Israel are in constant danger of anything that happens because of the government and what they're doing. And then, of course, Netanyahu gets reelected when everybody thought, even a guy that I worked with that has only lived here from there for about 2 years, saying, yeah, he's no good, or I mean, just any number of conversations. And he's had a pretty good pulse on what was going on over there. Netanyahu's no damn good. He's just no damn good. And Trump is apparently by association, And the thing is that you got when Trump was in there, I was surprised that he even won that night with the Clinton machine, Clinton death machine being what it is. But then when you really, really think about it, if Hillary had won, everybody would have gone back to sleep. Everything would have gone back to sleep. With Trump in there, you have the divide and conquer that was already there at an infantile, level, jumped up into incredible dimensions because people just fucking hate Donald Trump. They hate when he speaks. Now, I don't hate him. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for anyone that thinks that he's living.
I grew up in the New York area, right? I had a friend of mine in high school. He worked for Trump for years, for the Trump organization. He always had great things to say about him.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't know the man. Yeah. I never met him personally. I've seen him a couple times in person, but I've never shook his hand. I've never spoken to him personally about anything. I like him. I like his brashness about him. That it was, hey, if he captured the 100 million under and unemployed people in the United States, this underclass of commoners that are sick of taking it in the ass, all right, from the system. And he said, I'm with you, and we're gonna fix this. And what we got QAnon. and which was a psychological warfare.
Yeah,
this is just Benjamin Fulford on steroids.
I never even, like, people were talking to me about that. Even family members were saying about QAnon, and I'm like, I don't buy any of it. I can't. I don't listen to it because I don't think it's real.
There was a possibility that it was real, but once they started talking about, Christianity and Judaism and Israel being our greatest ally, and that usual, corrupt speech. Israel is a pirate cove. It represents the Jewish mafia. It is the home base of Jewish organized crime that is killing and destroying the world, that is putting the entire world in a state of disease. They represent the enemy of every nation and every human being on this planet. And yes, he just can't go in there and say we're going to take them out. Nobody can profess that. They're too powerful. They control too many things. And even Jews themselves, like maybe the Schulzberger family that owned the New York Times, the reason they put this up is they saw that, they were getting along fine. They loved it. They're enjoying their power. They were acclimated into their societies, living in mansions, going to cocktail parties, driving Ferraris, doing cocaine and banging whores. Life can't get any better. Why would you want to destroy that and turn it into a sea of blood? For what? To fulfill some crazy prophecy that a bunch of psychopathic rabbis who talk about bring back the Moloch and the Mashiach, and rebuilding the temple. This is nuts. It's totally gotten out of control, and this is all being pushed under. We are in really, really perilous times.
Yeah,
very perilous times. Never been more dangerous than this, and it's all being led by him.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow,
And as I was saying too,
he would have been better than Hillary. We don't. You know what? Right now, it's pretty tough to say. I don't know if Hillary would have pushed the Moloch or given them their, all this temple stuff.
She's doing her damage. She's contributing largely to the divide and conquer. She's feeding the beast these groups of people that ferociously hate Donald Trump and would call for him to be killed and all this other stuff. I mean, these people. I mean, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do.
Well, let me hear me out about this. What if these people are basically trying to send us a warning? Now, I don't know. Just to throw this idea, because we know that everything that they present to us is a lie.
The New York Times family thing? I mean, as one aspect of it?
They're trying to wake up people, like they tried that maybe if they brought about this Russian collusion thing, knowing that the Russian mob, as sort of like code speak, like this is Bolsheviks. Okay, he's aligning himself with the Bolsheviks. That's dangerous. They don't represent the Jewish people.
Yeah.
All right. These represent a cabal of people like in the John Wick movie, The Table. These are people that need to be really eliminated, dispatched from history. These people are responsible for killing over 100 million people. And they want to bring that death upon the United States and China because they love it. They love it.
Well, I mean, largely when Michael Jones talks about, he understands that, he speaks about Jesuit orders and things like that as well. So, I mean, this is a compilation of a large number of different groups that kind of, like, I don't know who's at the top of the hill. I mean,
we don't know.
There are powerful groups out there, and the Israel lobby and a lot of these other, Rome is huge. Rome is the catalyst for so much. So,
maybe it isn't.
Maybe it isn't.
Maybe it isn't. Maybe that's what they want us to think. And that's the illusion of the first 230 years of the country. Now we're going to find out the velvet glove is going to come off of the iron fist. And these people want to fulfill their prophecy, which is going to bring about the Antichrist and the end of civilization as we know it. And so why not destroy it, every aspect of it, and put people into such a state of chaos? And that's where that relates back to what they've done with, our entertainment, with good stories, with people that want to make good films and good television programs, because they like the popularity and the notoriety of producing good quality content. And we know good content when we see it, when a story is engaging, that we can relate to, that we go, oh wow, that's fascinating. And it doesn't have to have super special effects.
Yeah.
But it can just be a really decent story. When's the last time there's been a really, really decent movie? Nothing in the last 5 years. Right? And
I watched The Mule the other day. I thought that was pretty good.
The Mule was good, but it was like Gran Torino light.
Right. Because he's obviously like much older now. But
it
did a
didn't
really good
get
job.
the fanfare of Gran Torino because we're 5 years past Gran Torino, 6 years past Gran Torino.
Well, he made didn't he make the American Sniper?
He did make that, which
was
that's just
I didn't even watch that.
Because, I didn't even. Yeah, I turned it off halfway through. I was like, nah.
Yeah, I don't even. There's things that I just don't even venture. Again, Game of Thrones for me was just a mistake of having access to it through a particular portal that was made available to me. And then I watched Winter is Coming. And then it was just like, and then like, all right, I'll watch the second episode, and then I'll watch the third, and then I'll watch the fourth. And then and the next thing you know, it was just, and the thing that I think I connected with the most was just like the certain characters that just wanted to do what was right. And then, of course, there was the other ones that just wanted just chaos. Littlefinger, what is the realm?
That's life. There's people now that are just trying to bring about chaos.
And this is the key. I mean, there was just so many really, really awesome parts of that where Varys, Spider King, and Littlefinger, a guy who crawled his way from like one of the lower houses to the King's Council, and then Varys is like, I just want to, I want what's best for the realm, right? And then Littlefinger's like, the realm. What is the realm? Do you know what the realm is? And then he starts saying, it's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. The story we tell each other over and over until we believe the lie. And then boom, that's part of our society where we tell each other these stories that were fed to us. Like the Iron Throne didn't even have 1,000 blades on it. And that was one of the last things that nutso friggin' Daenerys was like. She was like, I don't see 1,000 blades here. You know what I mean? As Jon Snow was like, I'm going to have to kill McQueen now.
I'm going to take McQueen. I'm going to kill McQueen with a blade from the chair.
You're McQueen. And it was just, I was saying to you, like, it was so horrible. But anyway, with the, 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies, a story we choose to tell each other over and over until we forget that it's a lie, or until we believe like whatever it is. that we've been told, and that's what the realm is, you know. And then, of course, they're making a prequel about the Long Night, and then even in that they say, you know, what we've heard about the Long Night is not exactly, but they're already saying that even that was a manipulation. I don't think that there were spiders as big as hounds when the White Walkers strode through the forest, you know, old Nan, you know what I mean?
I think
those were some
right
of the
now the prequel's in danger.
Right. Yeah, I think they were talking about a number of them, but you know, and that's the thing. Like, you gave things a chance. You gave the new Star Trek a chance. You gave a number of things a chance, but I started watching, you know, on Prime. I was searching around for like something to replace it because I want something that's going to be stimulating, to be able to watch something that's going to have good acting in it, something that's going to have like life lessons. Like, there were so many different characters in that they did something really fucked up, and then they knew it was messed up, and then they did whatever they could do to try to fix it. You know what I mean?
And they'll do this they do this thing in a piecemeal. Like, if you look at a good example of that would be Westworld. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Westworld, the first season, was near perfect television.
Right.
The stories were anecdotal. They were believable.
Mm-hmm.
They were relatable, and they were fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
And the second season, because the popularity of Westworld just shot up, it was the fastest rising, most popular television show ever. It basically, in numbers, surpassed more fans than Game of Thrones.
Really?
Not quickly, but its fire burned out very quickly, because in season 2,
right,
it just jumped the shark right out of the box.
Yeah.
And in the 8 episodes or 10 episodes or whatever they were, I think it were 10. There were 2 really good ones. One of them was probably the best television episode for a TV program ever made.
What was it about it?
That was about the Indian.
Oh, right.
Who finds his way to the who they have not done the little thing with the brain to reprogram his mind, so he has memory and is able to remember his wife and his yearning for his wife and his children.
And there was a small gaggle of them that were not programmed the proper way, right? It wasn't all of them, right?
But the story was so good. And I think it was like the 7th or the 8th.
Yeah, I remember the
that
Indian,
one,
yeah.
and it was just mind-blowingly good.
I'm going to have to go back and check out some of it.
The season 2 of the 10 episodes, there were only 2 good episodes. The 3rd one and the 7th or 8th one were really good. The rest of it, and this is what that meme has been, what I guess the producers and the productionist crews have been told. As long as you put a couple of good episodes, we don't care. But we have to have we have to project these social constructs, the social engineering out to our audience.
But doesn't
shows have to have these memes?
Doesn't that connect with the people that that have been programmed externally?
People don't connect to the social justice warrior crap.
Well, I mean,
when you see it, it's basically, it's stomach turning and it's reviling. Okay, because it goes against everything about who you are as a human being. All right, if you were born a man, you were born a man to have a purpose in life. All right, when you were born a woman, you were born as a human being that has a purpose in your life. The social justice nonsense that's being thrust down all of our throat is getting so stiflingly bad that and they want it to be the norm. They want this ideology, this feminine ideology, to overtake everything, and it's not working. They're getting blowback. Mm-hmm. They're getting blowback from their audiences. They're getting blowback from, the population. The people are onto them now. And it's all over the geek world news. If you go on YouTube or anything, and
nice,
go on, if you go onto YouTube and you see the critics and the geeks like Nerdrotic or
I was gonna say
go to
the Nerdrotic. Yeah, I listen to that guy. He's
I
didn't know you knew those guys.
Edge and these cutting guys. These guys are basically on the cutting edge of the.
Well, the Nerd Soup guys are pretty cool. I don't know if you ever came across any of their stuff.
No, there's a few of them.
Yeah, Nerd Soup. It's these guys probably up from North Jersey, because they talk about some of the sports teams up there, and they break down the episodes and all that other stuff, and they point out the stuff that's just totally ridiculous. The things that just never make sense, the things that they've never closed, like loose ends that they had more time.
This conversation, if we were doing, in fact, you tell your audience, listen, go to UCY on YouTube, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and you'll get Shali's show on YouTube. Right?
Shali Lama.
YouTube channel.
The Shali Lama.
Shaliak is back. And we do a nerd type show on it because this has relevance. It has relevance to everything because this is how people these moving images are the best way to reach into people's minds. And when you look at that, and they know that, and that's why they're using these motion pictures, moving images to try and brainwash people. And it's funny that they're getting a blowback and they're losing their minds over it because they really thought we can get people to do almost anything. We could just put it in a film. We can change history in a film. And that worked for so long, but it's not working anymore.
Right.
And people are saying, no, you cannot. We are not going to sit here and allow you to destroy our Star Wars.
You shall not perish.
Could you imagine them making a Lord of the Rings movie now? It couldn't be done. There's no way it could be done.
Well, the reason why
where's the girl? We can't have
the reason why I watched it again was because
they can't have the Fellowship of the Ring without a female superhero. I mean, they had to put a female heroine in The Hobbit with the elf who falls in love with the. Mealy. Was it Mealy?
I don't know. I haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen The Hobbit? Oh, The Hobbit's great too.
Is it good?
For the director.
Well, the thing about it was, I mean, I spoke with Clint. I want to say probably within the last 2.5 weeks or so. I reached out to him. He's been working on the new vaccination documentary that he's doing. And the second part to Lethal Injection and all these other ones where he's delving even deeper for all you folks out there that think that this medical system is actually, trying to make you better and trying to keep you healthy when in fact it's sealing your doom. And that's what this whole measles thing is about. But, Clint was saying that so many things in the Lord of the Rings have a connection to what's going on today. Tolkien wrote about there was a connection between what's happening in our lives, as you would imagine, which I didn't even pick out before. I went in 2001 because my buddy Dave was like, "Hey, I'm taking the kids to see the movie." And, I came by there and then they were like, "Oh, you gotta go. So then, I went. I wouldn't have, it wasn't really my cup of tea. So I kind of sat there and watched it. And then the next year it came out and then I went again because they were like, please come and see it with us. So, I saw all three of them, but it just didn't even really click with me because it just, I hadn't read it as a child. It just wasn't part of my thing, I was just, a misfit. I kind of still am. I guess that's why I knew. That's why I know all the things that I know, because I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't supposed to fit in, to go along to get along, and that's the thing. But he said, check it out, blah 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 blah. And so watching it. It was just really just beautiful. It was this, there was ugly parts of it and things like that, but it was just this really, really beautiful story. And of course there were connections to, Sam, in that one. And of course, Sam Tarly in Game of Thrones being best friends with Jon Snow. And then, of course, Aragorn being, I guess, him knowing that he was the heir to the throne. But then he was like, I don't know why he didn't do it, but he became this ranger. And the first time that he sees, he's in the
sins of his father.
Well, right.
Because his father succumbed to the dark side.
Right, because he took the ring. Right.
He took the ring and he tried to keep the ring, so the ring corrupted his mind, which corrupted his family name. And so he had to hide from that while the age of man was going through its through its peril.
Right, because he cut the hand or the whatever off of Sauron, and then is that where I forget exactly, but I know that he had it and he did something with it, but wasn't quite sure. But Aragorn. The Return of the King, that's him at the end. And I thought Viggo Mortensen did everybody did a great job in that. And just
it was
fantastic, dude. I mean, I sat there.
The battle scenes, the storyline, the heroism.
I was sniffling at the end. I'm going to be honest. I was sniffling at the end.
It was
such a beautiful movie, and the way that, the characters and everybody that, it was really intense. It was
epic.
It was epic.
It was an epic.
And they didn't have time to do any of these awful things that you've been talking about. I guess.
Well, it was before it became the norm. They could still do it. There wasn't anybody saying, no, all the movies, if you're going to receive funding for this project, it has to conform to these social agendas. That's what's going on today.
Yeah.
All right?
Well, plus you've got a lot of these younger writers,
the Soviet Union under the Bolsheviks, where they had to have the party officer, all right? And with the film industry in the Soviet Union, there had to be somebody from a Communist Party representative had to overlook the script and make sure that everything was being done. That's what we have here now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's being done. This is what was referred to as communism. This is particularly these Bolsheviks, the way they like to dominate control. And it didn't end well for them before, and it's not going to end well for them now.
Well, I thought that
this isn't Russia.
I thought that Russia was under that rule. I mean, I'm a little bit confused because I always thought that Lenin was a bad guy, but when I watch RT, when I watch programs, there's always busts of Lenin. So who was the bad guy? Was Lenin the bad guy, or was Stalin the bad guy? Or what the fuck happened?
The bad guy who were being told what to do. They were allowed to create their little fiefdoms to exploit their commoners, like our commoners here. But it was all done through total intimidation and coercion. And so every bit of people's lives had to be micromanaged and controlled by somebody from the state, and you couldn't trust anybody. You didn't know if somebody would turn you in. Right. So everybody sort of have the chilling effect. Private. In private, you had to really know somebody before you can confide. And there were these little pockets of people, where conversations could take place, but you could never go outside that pocket, and you always had to be concerned about it.
And you couldn't recruit anybody because there was always. So, are you telling me that Dr. Zhivago was just a bunch of bullshit? Dr. Zhivago.
Dr. Zhivago does take place prior to the Russian Revolution.
Oh, it's prior to?
Yes.
Because they said Bolsheviks any number of different times.
Well, it takes place on the dawn of the Bolshevik Revolution. Mm-hmm. All right. So look, the Bolsheviks, and that's what we're dealing here. We're dealing with Bolshevism. Mm-hmm. As Bolshevism is trying to flex its muscle and take over the reins of power throughout the world, and they can be stopped only by one way, because they're like roaches. They cannot, because they represent the father of lies. Mm-hmm. They represent the son of Satan. They are the sons of Satan, the synagogue of Satan. The only thing that needs to be done to defeat them is to expose them by shining the light of truth upon them, and through the rise of consciousness, men being men again and not being feminized, where they just simply say, no, we're not going to do that. Right? And it defunds them. It shuts them down. It always does. And this is why they're trying to come out with the anti-BDS legislation around the country. You can't boycott Israel.
Yeah.
And they're trying to force people in various states. This is ridiculous. It's not even reasonable. And all it does is shine attention upon them. And no one's done a better job of shining attention on these Bolsheviks more than Donald Trump and his allegiance to them.
Right. It's
making people aware of it finally. So maybe it's a good thing that this is happening, because people wouldn't see it before. They had that there. Can you doubt it now? No. You have a president of the United States saying that he wants to destroy people who are anti-Semitic. Well, who determines who's anti-Semitic or who's not?
Yeah.
So if they deem it, this is the president of the United States that he wants to destroy, not anti-Semitism, anti-Semites. Okay? So all of you Trump supporters out there, that right there, that one statement alone, he should be thrown out on his keister just on that alone. Because we're supposed to have everybody has the right to think and feel about things the way they want. I'm not saying that I would agree with people, but I'll defend their right to think and feel how they want to feel about something. And if people have a problem with the way Jewish power has exploited and destroyed lives and are questioning things, they have every right to do that. They have every right to ask questions and say, you do not just get the opportunity to shame us into silence. All right? We have questions and we want answers. Your stories that you tell, this which we believe is a fabrication of history, is a falsehood. It's based upon lies. So why don't you come forth with the real statistics, with the real numbers, and lay it out on the table? They will never do that, because they are the father of lies. They lie about everything. And this group of pirates have taken over through their coercion, through usury and sodomy, have taken over the land, all right, from the original landowners. This landowners, the people, the Declaration of Independence, all right, and the Constitution for our posterity, right? That means that those landowners, they're still there, but many of them, through this coercion of fiat money, have traded their family wealth, their family heritage, their shield for money. And money is a depreciating asset. Not even an asset at all.
Utility.
Right? The real value is their land. All right. So now you have bankers controlling how states are being run, and they have monetized everything. Everything today is a monetization fraud.
Well, I mean, just this week I was checking out, and I mean, you're familiar with the Zeitgeist movies?
Of course, yeah.
I think the latest one is Zeitgeist Moving Forward. I don't know. I know that they did a number of them, but I mean, the latest one, and it's about I think I want to say it's about 2.5 hours long. But what they do with absolute clarity is show how the financial system is not sustainable, and how it's going to destroy. It's destroying lives. And they go in there and they say, and the only thing that I have a problem with is how they talk about this, what is it? The Venus Project, where, and it made me think of Logan's Run. And I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he said, I was telling him about it. I was like, you got to check the zeitgeist out, because it kind of like breaks things down. It shows you how, we do not have infinite resources, and the world is being run like we have these infinite resources. And then that's another aspect of how, of our demise, the demise of the West. And they really break it down in a really great, clear way.
They've separated us from our consciousness and turned us into a bunch of robots, so that we will produce and consume. All right, we are cattle. Mm-hmm. That's all we are.
We're livestock,
and we are not cattle. We are cattle under this condition. If we surrender our logos to pursue our passions, then yes, we become cattle. And that's exactly what has happened to us as a people, as a species, where this is something that they never had the ability to do that in total until now with technology. Mm-hmm. And they feel it's game, set, match, but they're wrong, because the very system that they put in place to deny us, to separate us from logos, is the very system that's going to bring them down. And that's what's got them so scared right now. They are really scared right now. And that's why we're seeing all these double downs. That's why they're talking about, rebuilding the temple. All this is not a coincidence that all this is taking place right now, because they feel that if consciousness continues to rise and the Catholic Church regains its dominance, and we have the destruction of the Protestants, the WASPs, and the Jews are put in their place, because they're both in collusion with each other. All right, so this is not a Jewish thing. Mm-hmm. There's nothing worse than a traitor, right? While the WASPs, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, as they're referred to, are the most traitorous people on the face of this planet. Sorry. Because they have been in collusion to separate people from logos. Right? And a penalty is going to be extracted upon them for that. And they don't want to deal with it. So that's why I think this is being driven, because they see that as this goes on, like where we've come in the last 5 years, where it's going to be in 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. All these problems with immigration, everything, all these problems go away. These politicians basically lose all of their power and their influence. People start to question everything. That's really when the pitchforks and torches will come out. Yeah. And so they have to do everything they can to divide us, to separate us. So they're using entertainment to do that. Why are they coming out with the social justice warrior stuff? It's the same reason why they've been doing all the stuff with racist and slavery movies and Nazi movies, is they always have to keep that in the people's minds to control them. But it's not working. People are blowing back now. They're not accepting it. They're saying, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense at all. It is part of the rising consciousness that we're experiencing. And if we can make it through the next stave off some of the bad things that these people want to push on us, like war with Iran or war in Venezuela, or escalating something as a distraction, then I am very optimistic now that we're going to win, because this is the way life works. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the sanctions on Venezuela are the reason why people are being hurt the most.
Mm-hmm.
The sanctions, the U.S. sanctions.
Exactly.
And, of course, Trump doesn't mention that when he says that socialism, it's not that socialism has been, I forget what it was, that it's been implemented poorly. It's that it's been implemented, systematically or some shit. I forget what it was.
Trump has been too busy pardoning Jewish mobsters.
That's right. There was at least two.
He's pardoned like 4 or 5 of them. It's like real serious Jewish mobsters. Okay? So these are Murder Inc. guys, and he's out there partying. But there's 90,000 indictments that are going to come for the sexual exploits of the Clintons and all that, And
you think that's going to happen? I don't think that's going to happen at all. Oh, you were being. I got you. Because I've been waiting for all the. I've been waiting for all the pedophiles to be. It's ridiculous that
it's so
people
laughable. What's great to see ridiculous. Is that
such shit.
The QAnon, I want to call a phenom, has really lost a lot of its steam. A lot of their supporters have woken up to this, and have woken up to Trump, which I say is actually a good thing, because while some saying that he should be a shoo-in for re-election next year, I don't think so. Listen, he killed Hillary Clinton in the vote. Don't buy that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote bullshit.
It's just an elaborate divide and conquer. We're going to get rid of the Electoral College because Hillary would have won if it wasn't for that.
No, she got her clock cleaned. He got 70% of the popular vote. No question about it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now they don't want you to know that. They don't want that's not going to go out in the news, but they know that. And why? It was not a Democrat-Republican issue. He got that vote because he said, America first, all right?
Yeah.
We're going to bring jobs back. We're going to raise tariffs. We're going to be for us. America first.
Well, the thing that I've always had a problem with that, where the system has gone in this direction for so long, with China being able to do whatever, and then he's always like China.
Everybody felt helpless about it. Everybody felt helpless.
But here's the thing.
Everybody thought that it had to be an outsider. Let me finish.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that it had to be an outsider, somebody who was not part of the political system.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump had the money, had the charisma, and he had the balls to stand up to his critics and his enemies, look them in the eye and tell them they're wrong, and even call them out on their BS. And people loved it because they were just tired of it. That's why he got elected.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got into office, aside from his acceptance speech at his inauguration, or I should say his inauguration address, all right, everything at that point turned. And he has been nothing but a stooge for the system that he railed against. And then they put out this QAnon meme to placate people who would start questioning him and saying, don't worry. And I think originally there might have been some truth to it at the beginning, but then it was taken over by probably some, Tel Aviv, special ops in Tel Aviv,
right,
to take it over. And they started running this other meme, and that's when I knew, okay, this is completely done. This was all just a joke. This is like the White Dragon Society of Belgium.
Oh my God, right.
Okay? This is the white hats and the dark hats.
This is Benjamin Fulford over here in Japan, and I'm talking to the leader of the White Dragon Society, okay? And he says that he's going to shut the whole system down, okay?
They've done this.
We're on the cusp of a new renaissance.
They have every few years they come out with this same meme.
I know.
It's like, there's a bunch of gold in the Philippines that was buried there from, China and, World War II.
China.
And that money is going to go to pay off all the debts and bring everybody whole again. There's going to be a jubilee, a debt jubilee in life. No.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for you. If there's any debt jubilee, it's going to be for the aristocracy.
Mm-hmm.
And even them, they're not going to allow it because the pirates are not going to allow it because they are controlled through sodomy and usury. And it's game, set, match for them.
Sodomy.
It's us.
And Gahora.
Right.
Ahura.
And
Ahura.
And Ahura. And Ahura. So it's up to us, and they've got us if we don't raise our consciousness. And it's happening. Yay! I think it's coming. You wait till we have Michael Jones on. You'll see that he is rising in popularity, and
right.
I like to see it. I like to see the debate. It's fascinating because I think he's got a point. This isn't about corporate religion. This is about logos. The understanding and the following and the pursuit of logos supersedes institutional or corporate
Funny,
concern.
man. Somebody was listening to me like, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were saying that we need to get our Legos back. I'm going to the store right now and buying some Legos. Well, you want to come with me? They say if we get our Legos back, the world will be in a much better place.
Does that count? I got my Legos. I saw the Lego movie.
Oh my God! Let me see if I can find this, man.
Everything is awesome, right? The Lego
Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you rip out our spleens. All right, what do we got?
Everything is awesome.
What else do we got here? I'm gonna do this thing, man. I watch Family Guy every now and then, and I get this thing, and of course I can't find it now.
This because I gotta get ready to get something to eat or something.
All right. Well, we got about 20 minutes or so here. But if you want to go grab something, I'll get jiggy with some of these things. You want to?
No, I'll stay. I'll hang with you for a little. 20 minutes is not that long. I'm just gonna go soon because I went on a 15-mile bike ride. So.
Oh, did you?
Like, oh man, I'm a little bit hungry. The first 15-mile bike ride I've had in a while because I've been working so hard with my project. And it was not a really good idea to do it because the sun was really strong.
Yeah, man,
it wasn't that it was hot, but the sun was so strong. Like, whoa, man, getting the sunburn here is not good.
All right, check this out. Here's when the Griffins got invited to Family Feud, and Lois goes up. And she starts answering some questions to the moderator there. Hold on.
15 seconds on the clock. Name something you sit in.
A chair.
Male feces. Name a popular fruit.
Orange.
Leg. Something in your closet.
Shoes.
Scary monsters. Your favorite holiday.
Christmas.
9/11.
9/11.
Yeah, that's fucking Stewie. Name nothing that you sit in. And he's like, man, feces. Name your favorite holiday. Christmas. 9/11. I don't know, man. It's insane. I mean, there's so many things out there, and it's so weird because you'll hear things that you never expect to hear on Family Guy, like some of the things that they'll say when like Mort or something's on there, the pharmacist. Or whatever, and then they'll say like really derogatory things about Jews and things like that, and it's just like, how do they get away with that? And it's like,
They let it slip through a little.
Apparently, the whole cast of if Trump gets his new laws in, a death penalty for anti-Semites, McFarlane's done. He's finished. There's going to be. You're going to have
to basically kill 2/3 2/3 of the population of the world
prior to the killings.
They're just going to say it because they're going to say anybody who questions anything is an anti-Semite. That's what they're doing now. So, that's just not reasonable. I mean, and it's intolerable. It's like,
well, the thing is,
the only thing we're asking for is a conversation.
The thing is that if people have anything negative to say or any questions,
there's no dialogue.
They always say that it's going to result in people being killed. Jews being killed, things like that.
The result is now they're going to wind up being killed because what they're going to do is force people into a position where they have no choice but. When you we don't want to see. We want to see the world. When they have nothing left to lose, they lose it. All right, and that's the road they've taken this down to, since people can't have honest discussions anymore, and we can't honestly talk about these things and say what influence are you having on society.
And and people should know this, that there are large organizations of Jewish people that are against Zionism and all these things that they truly believe are detrimental to not only the people that live in Israel, but people that live, Jews that live in other countries.
Listen, there are a large number of Jews, wink, wink, nod, nod, okay, who understood that they have a great deal of wealth, power, and influence. And for years, as long as they kind of stayed in the shadow, they blended in with society. So they are living great lives. They've got big houses, Ferraris, cocaine, and hookers. All right? Who wants to give all that up?
I'm going to convert.
They've got power. They've got influence. And every once in a while, they can throw out the anti-Semitism thing once in a while if it suits them. But for the most part, it's go along to get along. And you never had anybody. I met and I worked with many of those people. They were not vicious, bloodthirsty people. They like to play a little, skim on the edges, like the guy who likes to gamble, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But likable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have a beer with them. You could have food. You could break bread with them. They'd show up at your Christmas parties, blah 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 blah. Because hey, happy Hanukkah. You're friends with them.
I had a coworker again that was, probably 2 years here. He was working, doing tech work and things like that. And he is, I got along classically with him. He was just, he was watching Game of Thrones, and I started watching Game of Thrones, and then we started talking about a bunch of stuff. And I even said to him, I said, and when we were talking about Netanyahu, I was saying, listen, man, and he was like, yeah, no, he was like, he's very bad news. He's very, very bad news. And he said, I think he's going to get, he's going to get voted out. He's going to get voted out, and he's going
to get a lot of Jews killed. That's what he's
and that's what I said. I said the thing that I think that you should be concerned with is that those policies, if he does get elected, are going to put your family who lives there still, that you go and visit and that you love, obviously, in danger. I mean, they need to know this, man. They need to know this. They can't have it's not just corruption, and that's the thing that I think that
this isn't a skim we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. All right, this is full blown, all in your face, totally corrupt now.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't just the skim. This is way out of control, and there are many Jews who are smart enough who understand. Wait a minute. If this continues, eventually, what's going to happen is these people are going to wake up to this, and they're going to start saying, "We have to kick all the Jews out." All right, because we're still guilty by association by supporting these people because we never renounced them. Because that's one thing, it violates the Basira law. You do not criticize other Jews. All right,
I think
you do that privately.
The New York Times family
That
jumped.
New York Finance family was I believe personally that was not a psyop, more that was a shot across the bow of the Likudniks and the Bolsheviks.
Good for them.
Which is what they are.
Good for them.
To say, we are not with you.
I never buy that. I never buy that filthy rag, but kudos to them.
Well, kudos to them for doing that, because I think that's a shot across the bow. And of course, it was met with the Likudniks instantly came out and started accusing the New York Times of anti-Semitism. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, this is crazy. We live in clown world. When reality is that, and I think behind the scenes, there are people that are saying, no, you can't have this. And there's a battle going on. And we're going to find out who wins. And I think unfortunately, where there were many people whose allegiance and alliances were, and you don't want to say that they were the good part. I mean, these are, the B'nai B'rith types are not exactly, your best friends either. But when you have a choice between who you want to deal with, B'nai B'rith or Likudniks, you're better off with B'nai B'rith. Mm-hmm. At least some with them are reasonable. You have to deal with a lot of problems, but you're not dealing with bloodthirsty psychopaths. With the Likudniks, the neocons, these people are fucking dangerous. Sorry. Absolutely dangerous.
Oy.
The greatest threat to humanity right now. And it has to be dealt with. And what we see in our own president is an alliance with them. We're in real serious trouble. Real serious trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doubt it, man.
Because I grew up in New Jersey. I worked in New York. I worked with Jews for years. Mm-hmm. I hate to say they could say, oh, some of my best friends are Jewish, but I was friends with many of them. I grew up with them. My buddies. Okay? Yeah. And there was never any animosity or ill will with these, They were part of the crew. They were fun.
It's just like anything else. They don't know the manipulation, how they've been manipulated. Catholics don't realize how badly they have been manipulated with religions, with ideologies, with dogmas.
Catholics got taken off of logos. Really the emphasis being put on the Protestants, which is just wow, serious problems there. Remember, the Protestants are the wasps,
right?
So they made their deal with the devil. And they made their deal with the House of Satan, the Bolsheviks, because what they were most intimidated was losing their power. They were intimidated at the Catholics because the Catholics have logos. They're the only of the three religions, Catholicism, Protestants, and Judaism, which is what the U.S. is made up of. The Catholics were the only ones with logos.
Logos!
All right, so the Jews made a deal with the wasps, and who knows who approached who first. It doesn't really matter. They're both equally guilty. And that's where we have the Schofield Bible and everything was brought into play. Okay, because the deal was made that they'd loosen up financing and they would bring about this war and this societal change to defeat the Catholic Church and its power and its ethnic communities and its neighborhoods throughout most of the United States. And all of the Midwest, which was the industrial powerhouse of the world, was completely controlled by Catholicism. And so they needed to get at that money and to financialize that industry base and destroy that industry base, which they've been very successful at.
From Logos to No-Gos.
Exactly. And the Catholics have been lost ever since 1965 with the Vatican II.
Vatican II. Vatican II. Electric jigaboo. Just jigaloos.
So much of the lies that were told, the propaganda and lies that we were told that the that the Catholic Church has got all this money and everything, when the Catholic Church was the victim of the Reformation, which was the stealing and the looting of church assets and property.
And I always thought that the Reformation was...
The church has had more money stolen from it than any other group on the planet.
I thought that the Reformation was people trying to shut down the Catholic Church hundreds of years ago because they were a corrupt organization. When it turns out that what we're hearing,
the monarchy stealing the church. What happened was that because, remember, the church represents logos. Okay, with logos there is reason.
Yeah, no use, no.
So these are people that are raising. This was not the Dark Ages. This was actually the age where it was probably the best time to be alive. Was during that time because everybody had to follow the code, and you lived by an honor system. A man's word was his bond, and if he tried any attempts at subversion or deception to gain an advantage over another person, led to them being shot or being run through with a sword, and it was perfectly within your right to do that. It was not considered murder.
And was that the what we heard about the
what a golden age? That's a great way to live.
What was that organization? The Catholic Church had this organization. What was it? The Knights Templar. Was that after the Reformation or is that before? I don't know. Some of my history is just.
We'll have to go into that with. Yeah. I'm not the history expert. I think of it. So we go through that with Michael Jones, and he's actually. What attracted me to him when I said this to you a couple of years ago when I first, hey, this guy's amazing, that maybe I was wrong about the things because I was one of the biggest opponents to the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I mean, I found myself
I repeated all the stuff everybody did. Oh man, they're just this corrupt organization. They've been lying and stealing and blah 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 blah. And they own the government. The pledge that they pledged the Catholic Church. Was it? I forgot which king. I don't know if it was Orange. All right, had pledged with the creation of the Bank of England had pledged England and the British Empire to the Catholic Church, which was all propaganda nonsense. It's all nonsense. So we were wrong about it. I mean, we were just wrong about it. It's okay to admit when we're wrong about something, and because once I understood, it's not about a corporation. It's about logos, and for everybody, because only in the state of logos where you have a reasoned mind can, if somebody tries to take advantage of you, tries to commit any type of fraud against you. In contract or in person or in contract, there is you have recourse in that case.
Right.
There's penalties, right? And shaming, and since everybody lived by the code, that anybody who fell outside of the code was shamed. And it kept everybody honest. What a great environment to live and work in, where you could trust everybody, where everybody's word was their bond, and there was no deception and collusion. And we're told through our system, this is so great that we live in this enlightened world. This is a savage world that we're living in.
Well, they got people and loving and admiring and toasting to their own servitude.
Yeah,
because you got the ball game, and
remember, it was logos that created at least the Constitution, where the government was held in check through a negative document, because the majority of people, even though many of them were Protestants, many were still under the influence particularly of Catholicism through Europe, like Germany. Okay, a lot of the German immigrants were some of the best workers that came over, right? And they settled in the Midwest and created the industrial powerhouses. They did all the they were in charge of the milling and the timber industry in Michigan and other places like that.
Yeah,
these were ethically Catholic families and organizations. The breweries that started Anheuser-Busch, big Catholic family over there, right? From Germany. All right, so they brought that code with them about they brought their codes with them, their work ethic and their equal distribution of labor codes. They shared, all their employees shared in the prosperity of the venture. That's what Catholicism teaches their followers to do. It's not based upon financialization. It's based upon productivity. You know, it's based upon paying a man a living and a living wage for a decent day's work, and then providing and rewarding them for doing that. Not just with the gold watch and all that stuff, but I mean, you know, allowing them to raise a family, paying them enough money that he could raise his family and, you know, provide food and shelter and some enjoyment in his life so they can enjoy music and their neighbors and family and grow. And that became a very powerful bond. Everybody in everybody's neighborhoods knew each other. Everybody watched out for each other's children. Every mother stayed home. None of this stuff. There was no need for them to do that. Women were happy. They weren't being oppressed by this. They were actually enjoying it. And we gave them all sorts of toys that they could enjoy, TV sets and, you know, things that made their job easy, so they didn't feel like they were working so hard. But the most important thing is they got to see their children grow and got to be part of their children's lives, and they were good human beings. Where's that gone? It's gone away. Now they're being told that they have to be like fighters and aggressive, and they've got to kill bad guys, and they have to be able to, you know, jump over starships and do all this stuff. Why? Because you go, girl. You're a powerful woman. Like, yeah, okay. What about being a mother?
Well, I think I think largely nurturing has been filtered out to a certain extent,
and that's true because of the culture war that we find ourselves in, because we don't have logos. So we had logos, they would understand the reason why they have that vajayjay, all right, is to bear children, and they would bear them, you know, and they would look for their weaknesses, what we perceive as weaknesses, right, as men. They have a strength. They're very cunning, and they use subversion often. It goes back to Adam and Eve. But when they have logos, they follow the code. When they follow the code of morality, they are wonderful. But when they don't follow the code of morality, and because women are engineered to basically desire two things in their lives more than anything else. One is validation, recognition, attention, right? All three of them being equal and synonymous with each other. And the second is options.
Right.
They want options. So, if you throw that nature into this mix with social media and all this stuff, you're taking an entire, what you're doing is you are committing genocide against not just if you want to call it a race of people, but an entire sex of people, because you're destroying women from within, because you're denying what you're doing is you're substituting a wholesome validation, the validation of their community, validation of their children, validation of their church, of their school, validation of who they are, existence as a woman.
Right.
All right? And you are exchanging that with showing their ass on Instagram.
There have been some definite wrong turns in that direction for sure. I was telling last week, you were saying that you listened to the program last week. What was it? I was talking about Gosnell, Kermit Gosnell. Did you catch that part?
Yeah, I listened to the whole
I think it was like 3801 Lancaster, which is the documentary about this abortion clinic. Watch that. Fucking, watch that. Man or woman. I mean, just unbelievable.
Right.
And it happens
they're killing women and destroying women's lives. They're putting them into a state of disease and emotional chaos. Mm-hmm. And this is being promoted as a good thing because abortion saves lives, and pregnancy kills women and abortion saves lives. That's the meme they're putting out there.
Well, I think definitely. Gosnell was one of his reasoning, one of his main reasons, and I think it might have been one of the only reasons that he gave was, what kind of life are these children going to have if their mothers don't want them? And it really made you think for a second, not justifying anything that he did, but when you see what he's seen, society made a monster. Like people were saying in the documentary, like, what made him snap like that? What made him do this? Society and what he saw. And again, I'm not justifying. I'm not justifying. Did you get a chance to look at it, to watch it?
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, take a look. It's roughly about an hour, but I mean, the society and what society taught him and what society has been created, the class system, makes. That's
what they're trying to say in this documentary, that it's society's fault that this guy. Did they talk about his upbringing?
Well, what he said, what his view of society, like what is going to happen if these mothers don't want these children, what's going to happen to these children? So he used that as a justification for
his problems go much more beyond trying to be godlike and saying, I'm doing the Lord's will by not subjecting these children, so I'm going to kill them instead. Okay, that makes sense. But what he's doing is he's fulfilling that second need of the temptation of the devil.
We got like 40 seconds.
Okay, and that is he's throwing an option at women, and women are given the option. And the option is childbirth or abortion. And they've been selling women on abortion for years. And it's really not gone so well.
Yeah, it's not. No, it hasn't. But, the people at the core have succeeded in killing the people that they want to kill. And I'm not judging. We got about 9 seconds here. So thanks, everybody. There's more to come. Hang out. Later.
There is only one holistic system of systems. I will MK Ultra ya. Put the MK scope on ya. If the MK hits you, it's guaranteed to open ya. The 57mm Mark 110, 220 rounds a minute, try to stop them. Don't put that on your wish list, that's retarded babble. Protesters make the hit list soon as they start to rabble. There are nothing but fishes in the barrel. It doesn't have to be Christmas for a carol. Some decorate with ornamental decorum. Some perform Shakana on Hanukkah and Purim. That's where my job come in. I am a blessing to the mercenary for the corporation selling weapons to them. Any potential competitor step into them. I'm authorized to knock them out and stick a GPS into them. They want to sell uranium to Iran. That's enriched, that's a bitch. Now we gotta teach a lesson to them. Track and trace. Stick you in the database. When you get out of line, we can put you back in place. Do you fathom
This is Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.tv.